All right, so the meat of this, once you start and kind of have a familiar idea of what drawings is inserting images, text, shapes, charts, diagrams, word art, all these things. So we're going to go to the insert and we're going to do a little bit of each of these. Let me switch on over. All right, so kind of cleared this out, but let's do this so it's a little bit easier for you to see. Let's make this kind of skinny so I can do one of each here. So I'm going to go to insert, and the first thing I can do is image. You got a huge amount of things you can do with image. You can upload an image, which means any image that you have saved on your computer. So I can click upload and pick an image. And there's my nice image. Okay. Or I could do insert from the web. And you'll see on the right, your Google search comes up, so you don't even have to leave, and you can search for things such as grasshopper. Now, if you want something transparent, you can type grasshopper transparent or transparent background, and voila, there's your insert, and there it is. So now you can see I can expand it and move that. All right. Besides image search from the web, you can take things from your drive. So let's do an example. Notice that same box again. It's just going to come over from your drive. Anything that you've made or put in there, it's going to look for those photos. And again, you can click insert, or you could just actually drag them over too. You also can go directly into your Google Photos, or you can search or bring something in by URL. So if I wanted to find something in by some sort of URL, let's do just a search outside of this, and we'll just Google Drawings logo. Go to Images, and let's see. Let's change our tool settings here so it shows color and transparent, and then change our usage rights so that it's labeled for reuse and modification. Alright, so here's one right here. And notice it has the transparent background. So if I right click and copy the image address, that has been copied. Now I go over to my drawing and insert image from URL and paste it in there, and there it is. Right. Another thing that I've seen people do is, watch this, if I bring this image up here and hold it open until this drawing opens, and then I can bring it back, I can put the image in there. But notice what happens here is when you take an image like that, it's actually a thumbnail, so it's not really the one with the transparent background. So it's actually better to do it this way. A lot of times you don't know what color the backgrounds are when you copy and paste them. It may seem like it's transparent, but there may be another color behind it. So it's always good to either download the picture if you're allowed to, or use the URL, and that way it's going to be a smoother approach to that. And it looks like we're running out of space here, so can actually highlight all of these and kind of move them a little smaller there. Kind of distorted them a little bit, but it gives me a little bit more space. And now I go to image, and the last one is by camera. I'm using the camera right now, so it's not going to allow me to open it, but if you needed to take a quick snapshot, you could. Simply just by using the camera on your phone, your device, whatever, and it would do it instantly. Unfortunate thing about when I say your device, I don't mean a mobile phone, because Google Drawings is not a mobile app. It is just on the web. You could do it on your phone, but you'd have to go into Google Drive or go to Drawings via a web browser. And the functionality is going to be better at desktop mode, and it can kind of get wonky. So I wouldn't suggest it, but you could actually do it on there. All right. So that was all of those under just insert images, but there's so much more than just images. So let's go ahead and I'm going to select all by Control A and delete these. Now let's look at inserting text boxes. So text boxes just gives you a crosshatch, and you can make your area as big or as small as you want. If I make it really big, it's still going to keep this font size how I have it, but it makes the whole area bigger. So I can increase the font if I want to, and then I can type anything here, anything you want to type, just like your normal text boxes. Of course, if you highlight the area, you can change fonts, bolding it. You can also change colors, all sorts of things. So whatever you highlight, it will change. And now if I move this around, notice this kind of box is probably too big for what I have, so I can always shrink it down, and this will help you when you're aligning things. Because if I had it stretched really big like this and then I centered it, it's just going to center it in that space. And I really want it centered across the whole thing. Or I could do it this way. Let's say I want it centered on the entire page, but I just wanted to kind of keep it contained in its box. I can use these just by grabbing the outside of the text box, and it'll show me on the line tool. Alright, so that's inserting a text box. So let's keep that there. And now I'm going to insert some shapes. There's so many things with shapes. So first off is you have any of these shapes to choose from boxes to rounded rectangles to circles, all sorts of things. So let's just try a square or a box. Now if I do a rectangle, I have lots of options of moving it up and down, but if I hold down the shift button, that's when it automatically makes it into that square. Alright, and it automatically colors it in, and then you can change those items. So if I need to change this to yellow box with a purple border and maybe make it a little thicker by clicking on the thickness, there we go. So now I've just made a box. Now go back to Insert, Shapes. I can pick something like this rounded rectangle, which again is nice. If I hold down Shift, it's going to make it proportional. But what's cool about the rounded is you're going to notice these small little orange diamonds or yellowish diamonds. And when you have them in there, see how I can control how much of a curve it is? So if I want to put it behind or in front of this text, I can make sure that it's rounded just how I want it. And now I actually order and send it to back. So now you can see it's behind there. So we'll get into arranging there, but I just wanted to show you that tool is nice to be able to control those. And you can change it at any time. Besides on those shapes, you have all of these tools. If you select like something with 7 or 8 or 10, or even this one, when you make the shape itself, it's not going to give you those, not all shapes necessarily have that orange little area to control the sizes of them. So like for instance the star does, and get down to the arrows do. So let me try an arrow here. And notice there's the arrow. I can control how big or fat that arrow is. And I can control how skinny this part is. So just by knowing and using those little features, I would suggest you definitely play around with those type of things. If you go to the callouts, these are the ones that you can actually change. So notice it's the same number. So if I choose the octagon again, and now I choose, it's 8 sides just like this one, but it allows me to control how far in I put the item. You can also click on an item and rotate it, and it's going to show the number. And we'll get to this when we arrange items in there. Also under Insert, besides callouts, you do have equations. So I could easily put different symbols here. Change their backgrounds also. So under Insert, there's shapes, your arrows, callouts. So notice there's little bubbles and things like that, and equations. Alright, so let's erase all this, highlight and delete it. And now I'm going to go to Insert and go to Table. Tables are interesting because you're like, well, why shouldn't I use a table when I just need like a text box? Or maybe I need a bunch of text boxes, and that's when a lot of people try to use tables. So now I have an instant 4x4 grid. I can control the dimensions. If I make it smaller, it'll proportionally make them all smaller. So I could have my own little grid here, and then be able to type in each box. So I can put whatever numbers, and of course formatting the entire table and box too. You could also go to Charts, and Charts is interesting because you can make your own bar graph, column graph, line, or pie graph, but you can also take something existing from Sheets. And that means if you already have a graph in there, it'll bring over that live data, and if the data changes, it'll actually change on your drawing. But let's just do a pie graph so you can get an idea. So I click Insert Pie Graph, and there it is right away. Well, that's not what I wanted the pie graph to look like. So I need to make some changes. I can go to the arrow, and I can decide to unlink it, which means I just want this actual image, and I don't want the source of it. But if I like the source, and I'm like, you know what, I want to make some changes and have it linked, click Open Source, and what it's going to do is it's going to open up a Google Sheet with that exact information in there. So now I can change any of these things. So I could be like, this is, let's see, instead of team 1, or so actually I can just change the numbers here. So if I want to do 2, 5, 7, 12. So you can see I've automatically changed each of these things. Instead of green, blue team, I could call this green. Maybe this is a favorite colors type thing. Wherever your data and stuff is coming from. So again, you're affecting and changing. And then here I could put like, and so this is all done right here in this drawing. So now if I go back to my drawing tool, it says, oh wait, there's been an update. I click on Update, and now my graph has changed exactly how it was. If I need to make more changes, go back to the open source, which is just here, and you can even go, because this is now just basically a sheet that you've embedded, you can change the chart, you can publish it, you can add alt text, you can edit some of the things in there. So you're going to get your ranges and things like that. You're going to be able to customize chart styles, background colors, things like that. I just did that to show drastics. Change pie slices to different color. So let's say you wanted a different blue. I'll do that. And so just depending on how you want to customize it, your chart title, instead of points scored, it could be colors. And so now it's saying it on there. I go back again. Oh, it's been updated. There we go. So this, of course, could continue on. So you could have this already set up and then have the data from the sheet come in. So whether you create it new or insert it directly, you can do that. All right, I'm going to need some more space here for diagrams. So let's go ahead and delete this. And we're going to go to Insert Diagram. So under Insert Diagram, you're going to see on the right, oh great, look at all of these nice little tools. If I want to have my own grid that's already been kind of set up and formulated, all these templates. There's a hierarchy, timelines, processes, relationships, and cycles. So any of these would work. So let's just do a timeline, for example. So I click on it, and now it gives me a bunch of timeline choices and how I might want it to look. It even gives me a choice of how many dates I might want to have. And so I can pick one that I like. I'm like, kind of like this one. So now it's in there, and it's taking up a lot of this space. So I'm going to drag and move this over here, so that way it'll be full and big on my screen. So there we go. So now this is all set up. Each one of them is separate. So I can double click and change any of these things. And so these were all grouped together. I'd have to ungroup them if I wanted to separate them. So you probably don't want to do that, especially since the work has already been done for you to set them up. If you don't like that transparent background, you can right click anytime and go to background and change it to a solid color. Whoa, that does not look good. Or I can just do the white here. Or I could do some sort of gradient. Clicking on gradient and choosing, oops. So you notice when I couldn't right click when I was not on a particular object. Let's do a black gradient, there we go. And maybe I can change this font to white or something like that. If you want to try selecting more than one, notice all of these are just text, but there's images selected in between here. So when the images are selected with the text, it does not necessarily allow you to change the text color. Okay, so typically you'd want to, if they're already grouped, you'd want to highlight the particular word, change it here. And those were actually pretty small, so we can probably look at the dimensions and see what was intended. But of course, this is yours. It looks rather big to you here, but if we want to go to page setup, we can see this is only a 6 by 2 inches. So we're looking at something smaller than a 3 by 5 index card, or kind of about that size, which could be nice, you know. Maybe you print those out and have a bunch of people, that's their index card that explains some sort of timeline. But again, lots of different ones here. If I go to grid, you'll see there's a number of ways to display those. 5 different levels. You can choose different color. So if you're looking for kind of a formatting thing. All right, back to insert. We're going to do some word art. So I can add some word art to this graph. So let's say we could just call this timeline. And I hit enter, and there it is. And so they call this word art just because it allows us to expand and move the words as if they're a graphical item. And so now, let me move this off the chart. And that's another great thing about drawings, is you can move things out of the way. That way you can retool things. So let's say I move this down, and I'll put my timeline up here. Still kind of big, so let's make it a little smaller. And it has some black in the background and yellow and blue, so I want to change this. Let's do it kind of all in white and have it have no background. Now that's cool, but maybe I want a different font. So I can choose from my fonts. There we go, kind of like that. And pretty easy. So now that's part of your image just by using that word art, so you can expand it. All right, the last part under insert, besides comments, which just allows you as a grader or peer or someone who's looking over to make specific comments on items. So if you select an item, that comment be like, oh, timeline looks too big or something like that. But under line, you have all of these choices. So you can just make a single line. And so I just make a line here. Notice it has these purple points, so it's actually connecting them. And then once the lines come up, you can change your color, change how thick they are. You can change if they're dotted. Make it smaller so it looks more dotted. You can also change whether there's arrows or bullets at the end, some sort of filled circle. It's an open arrow. You can have arrows on both sides. You can even link those to something, and of course comments. We haven't gotten to format options just because I want to be able to explain that later when we're looking at just that. But you could also do that for lines too, as well as any of these objects we select. Now another thing I can do under lines is just regular arrows. So I added arrows, but there's just a regular arrow. So if you want to do that, you can. You can also do what is called these elbow connectors. And so you pick one purple area, and when you click on it, it connects kind of as an elbow to the next area. So it automatically clicks or links into the right spot when you connect it to a particular area. Notice I put it on top, so it made that path. So you can kind of use it that way. The same connectors are also curved, so if I didn't want to use it as a elbow kind of thing, I want it to be curved, I could do that. You could also do curved lines. So I'm just going to draw a straight line, and as soon as I let go of the line, that's where the curve starts, and then I press. Every time I press, it makes the curve. If I double click, then the line ends, and now it's highlighted, and I can make it any color I wish. So there's my curve, and you can curve it all the way down. And if you connect a curve, then it makes a shape. I'm going to click back on the arrow and resize this and make it smaller. So you can see there's lots of stuff you can do. Last one is the polyline, second to last one is polyline. Similar to the curve, except for you're dealing with straight lines. So every time you click, it makes a point. So I could essentially outline, and you're going to see this is what they used when they did that graphic art. I can outline a certain area. As soon as I connect them all, now it makes that shape. And of course that shape I could recolor, put different items, and then I can move it around too. All right, the last part is the scribble under the line. And scribble just means you hold down your mouse, or if you have a touch screen, you just hold it down and you just start drawing whatever you want, scribbling around. And when you connect, it's going to make the line. If I scribble around and connect through it, it still only makes a line. It doesn't do like the curve or the plot lines to make a shape. All right. Well, while we're here, I might as well show you insert link. So when I'm selecting an object, so maybe this entire section is linked somewhere, I can do insert. See how when there's a bunch of items in there, it can't be linked, but when I select a single item, the link button appears. Okay. So only when single items are selected. So when I go here, there's a link item. But when I click on this, it's all grouped. I can't link it. Okay? Even right-clicking does not show that. So to link something, click on the link, and down at the bottom it just says type it in, whatever the link is. So I just want to do a simple google.com. There we go. It's going to search and find it. If I add the HTTP, then it's going to be exact. I hit apply, and now this is linked. So when I click on it, it goes directly there. So drawings can be done through links, and the last part is commenting. So I can insert a comment through here, the insert button, or at any time I have something selected, just hit add comment. So let me get rid of diagrams so we can see this big, and I'll do through insert. Notice also it's Control-M. Hit comment, there it is, and it's based on that. This seems too big and bold. And hit comment. And so there it is, it's based on that particular item. I choose this one and hit comment. Now it's based on that. Notice the highlights. Anything, of course, the same comment rules apply. If you put a plus in front of it, it'll direct it to that person. But those comments are there and also at the top right. So you can see, just like your other items, when you highlight, it knows exactly what you're talking about. Since this is not a linear type of paper, it's similar to slides that works for comments. It highlights the area that you did, no matter where it is on the page, and then that helps you know what it's addressing. All right, so that's a look at inserting. We'll be back to look at formatting, arranging, and tools.